Inside Nigeria, keeping you informed on what matters.
Good morning, listener and viewer. Welcome to another edition of The Big Issue on the Leadership Podcast Studio this morning. We apologize for starting a bit late today. Thank you for being with us. And with me in the studio today is a popular Abuja-based public affairs analyst and newspaper columnist, Mr. Jide Ojo. Jide, welcome to Leadership Podcast.
It's a pleasure.
Studio for the second time.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. And of course, as usual, we're going to dissect prominent front page stories of some Nigerian dailies this morning. And as usual, we will start with Nigeria's most influential newspaper, The Leadership. The lead story on Leadership this morning: PDP in disarray as 7 national officers quit, cites exclusion. PDP in disarray as 7 national officers quit, cites exclusion. Jide, are you not surprised that PDP is also having problem at the same time the governing APC is having challenge?
Well, it doesn't come to me as a surprise. As a student of politics, you should expect the unexpected. PDP is not having it easy. They are losing members in droves. 3 governors have since moved to from PDP to APC. David Umahi of
Yes, sir.
Ayade of Cross River, then Matawale. And this doesn't all go well for them. And when you lose a governor, you lose the senators, you lose the House of Reps, you lose the State House of Assembly members. And of course, we've also had of some members, even in states controlled by PDP, senators defecting. Look at Elisha Abu in Adamawa has left. The daughter of David Mark left Abga for APC. Several of them, even in Bauchi, there have been defections. Well, so by and large, this they not entirely surprising, but if you look at the 7 people who resigned, they were spare tires. They were deputizing officers. So deputy national legal advisor, deputy financial, deputy publicity, deputy auditor, deputy woman leader, deputy several of them. So all the 7 of them are people who are deputizing. And apologies to former deputy governor of Anambra State, this elder statesman, I've forgotten his name, said, deputy governors are like spare tires. They are only needed when the main principal officer is not on ground. So they have cited exclusion. We also do know that Uche Secondus is a principal target. They are what the national youth leader on TV yesterday, where he was saying, that's Jide Ojo, saying that Uche Secondus must resign, otherwise he will leave, and many others are going to follow. So when all your executive members leave, that leaves you as a sole administrator. And I think the earlier that PDP ought this internal crisis, the better. Incidentally, that same yesterday, the reconciliation committee is set up in November of 2020. Actually was in Ibadan, Oyo State, meeting with Governor Seyi Makinde, trying to reconcile another warring, another faction, because I learned in Oyo State, the PDP has been divided into 2. There's a faction of the governor, and then the faction belonging to Bolarumi, the former deputy governor to Alawa Akala. So they tried to reconcile them yesterday. That's Senator Bukola Saraki's panel, having in his team Ayin Payasayin, former deputy senator of the president, Liye Imoke, former governor of Cross River, and the rest. So by and large, I think for me, it is not totally unexpected that when things like this happen, I used to give the example of Siberia and Saudi Arabia. In politics, nobody wants to be in Siberia, which is a land with limited opportunities. You want to be in Saudi Arabia, where there's limitless opportunities, where you can get contracts, you can get tickets to run, where you can get nomination into different boards and all of that. So that's what is playing out in PDP. But I hope they will survive this crisis.
All right, let's look at the riders under the list story. One of the riders is saying youth leader calls for sack of national chairman. He just mentioned that. Secondus fires back, says some members want to erode party's gain ahead of 2023. Do you share in this view?
I don't know what the party has gained beyond the governor of Edo State
that joined them
in June last year. So what are the gains in the actual sense? But I think the board of trustees needs to step in, and the other organs of the maybe they should organize an emergency, or is it no convention? Convention is the biggest organ of the.
But the convention will need planning. Don't you think NEC come first, settle some issue before you go into convention?
That's if the NEC can settle it. Or BOT. It's the BOT.
Which is one of the consciences of the party.
The BOT is the conscience of the party. If they can try and resolve the issue, they have cited the exclusion. Can they look into that issue? Can they said they want to start their national registration soon. A party divided like this will not gain will not get much from such exercise, but we'll see. It is what one of the rivals said. The party said we'll address grievances.
The last rider, I think that's interesting. We can keep our fingers crossed and see what come out of the engagement. Well, let's go to the next newspaper for the day, the sister publication of the leadership, the national economy. Nigeria's post-oil economy faces uncertain future with patchy $2.5 billion savings. Nigeria's post-oil economy faces uncertain future with patchy $2.5 billion savings. Well, let's look at the riders. Infrastructure gap widens, mounting debts at $88 billion raise concern. Mounting debts at $88 billion raise concern. Are you not disturbed?
Well, the economy as a whole is very disturbing. The owners, the omen is very ominous. Savings, who will save in this kind of economy? Even at the governmental level, government has borrowed to the hilt. Our debt portfolio, if you look at it, is far in excess of this saving. 2.5 billion in saving is very patchy indeed. And you have infrastructural gap, as the writer said, the infrastructural gap widens. If you look at my column in the Punch today, I paid a visit to Kogi State over the weekend. I came back on Monday, and I saw quite a number of federal government projects there. It's either abandoned or just going on at snail pace. That will happen because there's no resources to fund those infrastructure. Even look at the Abuja Okene Road, Abuja Lokoja Road. That road was awarded by Obasanjo before he exited in 2007. If you do the math, 2007 to date is how many years? Over 14 years. Yes, it's not completed. They borrowed Sukuk fund, it couldn't complete it. Now, if you are traveling on that route, you will see at some point that you have to divert, facing oncoming vehicle and all of that. So, how do we improve our savings? We need to diversify the economy. The non-oil sector needs to be aware. And look, I said it. Look, if we are able to resolve Ajaokuta conundrum alone, look at the number of jobs that Ajaokuta will, the direct and indirect job it will provide. When I was doing research for my article today, I read that the Ajaokuta idea was mooted in 1971, consummated in 1979. Do the maths, over 40 years. We have that place as And I've passed, it's not like I read it, I've passed through Ajakuta on my way to Enugu twice.
Yes.
That place is comatose.
Yes.
You will see staff quarters, very gigantic industrial complex producing nothing. I'm sure even the technology that was installed there
Cannot be involved again.
Cannot do it again. So they have to change the entire machinery if they are going to do that kind of iron ore, metallurgy, and all of that. But I'm just cited one. If we take our solid mineral sector serious, we take our agriculture serious. And I think one other way I've advocated we need to improve our savings, and as we diversify, we should not be in a hurry to export our crude, our raw materials. Process them into semi-finished or finished products. That's why you can have significant savings or income on them. I don't know if you get my drift.
Yes.
So what I'm saying invariably is that, yes, this is a treason. What you have shown is true. Infrastructural deficit is paltry. The infrastructural gap is wide, and the debt is mounting, but way out is for us to diversify. And I pray that we are able to get out of COVID-19 pandemic early enough, because that again is a impediment to our economic growth and development.
But Jide, one area of concern is that the way you spoke about diversification, government also oftentimes we talk about diversification, but there is no concerted effort to practically diversify the economy.
Exactly. Talk is cheap. As he said in local parlance, talk is cheap. You can say you can build castles in the air, exactly. But how do you do the needful?
The actions
exactly. Action points. What are the action points? We borrow a lot. We want to fix the infrastructure. We borrow a lot. I mean, even the money, the leakages we are supposed to block, we have not successfully blocked those leakages. You still hear of what fund generating, revenue generating MDAs not remitting the money to the federation account. Is that not what led to the exit of Bala Usman?
Yes, as the MPA boss.
165 billion.
One agency.
That's one agency. There are several: customs, immigration, FRS, and all of that. And when you hear of Senate probe, House of Reps probe, why do we need to even borrow? On top of this trillion that stashed all over profits. In private, in agencies account, despite the TSA. We talked about Treasury single account. There is not supposed to be surplus that you keep that should not be there. But you see, civil servants have found a very creative way. They generate the money, they spend it. They now remit very little to the federation account. So we are left to borrowing. And as we borrow, unfortunately, one thing worries me. I've done a couple of articles in my column on this. The rate of abandonment of many projects. At some point, you are a journalist. At some point during the Goodluck Jonathan era, you recall that Engineer Buru Committee was set up. I think as at that time they did an estimate of the number of abandoned projects to be about 11,000. That was way back in 2011, 2012. Today, the number of abandoned projects possibly has tripled. So when you now abandon the project, you have tied down funds. And I've suggested, why don't we sell off some of these white elephants, the ones that are not useful, sell them off, then use the funds, the proceeds you make from that, to fund the completion of the extant ones. And then why don't we do BOT, build, operate, and transfer? So you engage the private sector, they use their money to do the project, and then they transfer it maybe after 50 years. Or as they currently are doing, which is commendable, asking some companies to use their funds to fix some infrastructure, then they would use their tax credit to pay back But you need to do proper assessment so that somebody does not spend 1 billion to do a road and then collect 10 billion back in tax credit. But these are options that are available to us to explore.
All right. Let's move to the next newspaper for the day, The Guardian. Fresh battles rage for soul of PDP APC ahead of 2023. Fresh battles rage for soul of PDP APC ahead of 2023. Of course, there are legal battles already on ground, because I know there are PDP members who are currently in court to challenge the leadership of Uche Secondus. Remember Kasim Afegua, who has been at the loggerhead with the NWC, and just yesterday or 2 days ago, there are also members of the APC who approached the court on the validity, on the legality or otherwise of the Buni-led caretaker committee.
No thanks to the Supreme Court judgment of last week on the Ondo governorship election that split the Supreme Court justices across the middle. Governor Arakuni Rotimi Akeredolu escaped by the whiskers. The split decision of 4-3 to retain his seat over what Section 183 of the Constitution. You have a governor, a serving governor, still doubling up as the acting national chairman, or what they call caretaker committee chairperson. And Yobe State, where is a governor? Do they not have a need for full-time governor? Did they appoint him as a part-time governor? And you ask yourself, this Bunu committee, I recall that I was on a TV station to analyze the import of what APC did there. They were to serve for 6 months. Then 6 months turned to 1 year. 1 year turned to now. We are in August now. It's now about 1 year, 2 months that they've been there. If they had done the needful, do the convention by December last year, a new executive would have been in place. Yes. Now people are afraid that the candidacy of whoever is representing APC in the Anambra government is very shaky, because that may be a grant for the challenge in court. But let's keep our fingers crossed. We should also not be unmindful of the furore that the Congress of APC has generated. They had their World Congress over the weekend on Saturday. That was recorded in Ekiti State as a fallout of that. And in Akwa Ibom, in Kano, in Rivers, in Lagos, there are allegations of imposition, allegations. And one thing, Gbadebo, that surprised me is, why will a party insist on consensus? I mean, it is not in sync with democracy.
Yes.
You want, as we say in democracy, minority will have their say, majority will have their way. But how do you determine minority and majority in a consensus? When you foisted a consensus, and you now say your own definition of consensus is majority opinion, then there is no consensus. By my own definition or understanding of consensus, it's everybody, unanimous decision that this is the way we want. And you said by your party constitution, if one person disagrees, then you go into voting. You go into direct primaries. Why are they not exploring that opportunity of direct primaries? Why did they foist, consensus arrangement over themselves? And in fact, I learned a new word in Lagos about the crisis in the APC in Lagos, where the PRO of Lagos APC said those who are against the outcome of last Saturday's election will become IDPs. And
in the party.
That they will become internally displaced politicians within the party. So, politicians are very colorful people. And but I also, these are the two dominant parties. And maybe that's why former INEC chairman, Professor Atahiru Jega, said that we should reject the two, both of them in 2023. Of course, that has incurred the wrath of both parties castigating.
They are two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. It's the difference between
the other smaller parties are not helping matters.
Don't let them hear you say that.
They are not helping matters.
They will tell you that they are not small parties.
They are not helping matters. They just present themselves as if they are merchants.
Of course, they are merchants. No, there is not.
And they are not helping us to
deepen
the democratic
because
space.
It's all about waiting for the fallout. That's why you see them when they want to do party primaries, they will have their own last, because those who did not win tickets in APC or PDP, they will be their last. Look at what happened now in Anambra.
Yes, about
Okonko.
Yes,
Okonko, it's not in the candidate of ZLP. Meanwhile, the SRDP already have the candidate. They have to display. They made him an IDP.
I'm afraid they are cashing out.
I'm not being talking.
Let's move away from the Guardian to the Blueprint. And of course, on the front page of Blueprint this morning, the lead story is fallout of Umahi Ayade Matawale's defection. 7 national officers quit as PDP crisis deepens. Now, this is the recurring decimal on
most of these papers actually.
Even though I don't know the connection between defections and these people who quit yesterday, because I know what they said was that Uche Secondus was not carrying them along. If governors visit, they get something, they don't share with them, And
the only part is getting depleted now. From how many states they were in control of in 2019. They've lost 3 now. They gained 1. They lost 2. So Apatoro Danainu, as we say in Yoruba parlance. So but I have no sympathy for PDP. Really, like we said, the difference between PDP and APC is that you find between 6 and half a dozen. There are 2 sides of a coin. And this is the same tactics that PDP have used to rule for 16 years when it was poaching from under the guise of government of national unity. You remember, even party national chairmen of other opposition parties were incorporated. I recall Alhaji Abdul Kadir, the AD national chairman, at some point was poached into PDP. Even this guy, the former the Second Republic Speaker of House of Rep, is not what's his name? The House of Rep Speaker in the Second Republic, who was chairman of APP, Emel Ozeoke. His son was also given appointment in PDP. Yes. So all of this, is what goes around comes around.
Well, listener, we need to go on a short break. When we come back, we shall continue our discussion on major trending stories of the day, especially the PDP crisis and the ongoing industrial action by the National Association of Resident Doctors. Beautiful. Welcome back. Now we'll be talking about the ongoing industrial action by National Association of Doctors. And with us this morning is the Deputy Secretary General of the National Association of Resident Doctors of Nigeria, Dr. Jerry Isokun. Dr. Jerry Isokun, are you with me? Dr. Jerry Isokun. Yeah. Welcome to Leadership Podcast Studio. Dr. Jerry Isokun is the Secretary General of the National Association of Resident Doctors of Nigeria. Good morning, Dr. Jerry. Well, it's like we're having some hitches. Jide, what's your take on this ongoing industrial action by the National Association of Resident Doctors of Nigeria? This is the third day of the industrial action. Should this be happening against the backdrop of the third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic?
You see, this is why Nigerians are regarded as very backward and very, some people will liken this country to a banana republic. A same country will not allow this kind of thing to happen. You have an MOU with resident doctors. They were on strike last year. You pacified them. You signed the MOU, and then you renege on it. Which serious government does that and get away with it? And these people, they go to the same market as you and I. They pay the same school fees as you and I. I mean, a block for people, but mark you, if they leave, these are experienced hands that are leaving. So you leave the 206 million of us at the mercy of possibly rookies or people who are no longer, who are already spent forces. It's quite unfortunate that people, government, there's trust deficit, in government. People don't trust government when it says something. Look at it. Also, is also threatening on strike. Although yesterday, the Atomy news came that they met and then they seems to be on the same page about the payment of their allowances and asking NIDA to fast track this IPPIS that also was trying to do by itself. But the bottom line is that for this, the impact of resident doctors going on strike during this COVID-19 pandemic is very grave. We already have soaring numbers of infections. We are still battling with cholera outbreak already. So where does this leave an average person, you and I, at the mercy of Shylock private hospitals, which then means that many people will die of treatable sicknesses because they cannot afford the cost of accessing healthcare delivery at private hospitals. Unfortunately, NHIS, that should have even been a buffer or a safeguard for us, is comatose, even though it's been like 15 years since it was launched with fanfare. What is the number of enrollee on that scheme, even for government officials? Because a lot of complaints have come that people don't get efficient service delivery once they know that you are an NHIS enrollee. Doctors will not give you the best healthcare service because of the lateness in payment of particularly private hospitals. So they will just, for a disease that you are supposed to get a drug of maybe 20,000, they will just find the cheapest one, give to you. And then you find out that you are just using the drug is not effective. So these are some of the complaints. I recall that NHIS was a couple of years embroiled in leadership crisis, where the former executive secretary was alleged there were rife allegations against him. He was suspended by the former vice president, by the current vice president. He refused to go. The altercation between him and the then Minister of Health, this Professor Adewoye, the former Minister of Health from Oyo State, from Osun State, rather. So all of these things, that would have been the saving grace. So that, because what NHIS will have done is that it prevents you from making out of pocket expenses for healthcare delivery. But now that these resident doctors have gone on strike, it leaves the Nigerian masses at the mercy of either faith clinics, herbalists, and private hospitals.
On the counter chemist.
Yes, or fake and quack who pose as pharmacists.
Exactly.
Quite unfortunate. But we hope that good reason will prevail and they will resolve their issues and will not allow this strike to linger for too long.
Finally, oftentimes, or in the last few years, what we have seen as recurring decimal is industrial action by medical doctors or university teachers, college of education teachers, polytechnic teachers.
It's not only limited to that. There have been industrial unrest across board. It's just that these are the more prominent ones.
Exactly.
Do you know that when polytechnic lecturers went on strike, they went for over 1 year. Nobody even reckoned with them. They said, we have enough graduates, so if you like, you can go on strike for as long as. So it tells you the story why people now, there is a lot of medical tourism, there's a lot of education tourism. And you know that many diseases that could be treated in Nigeria now, people now go to, it's just this COVID-19 that's prevented many people from traveling abroad. When our president is even also a medical tourist. What are we saying?
Okay, we have Dr. Jerry Isogu on the line. Dr. Jerry Isogu.
Yeah, Dr. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Morning. Welcome to Leadership Podcast Studio. You are live with us. Yes. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm on the road, but I hope you can just.
We appreciate that. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Now, your industrial action has entered its third day today. Now, I would like you to tell Nigerians what are the issues this time around.
It's unfortunate that the players in the X sector are allowing this strike to. They allowed it in the first place, and they are allowing it to be prolonged. You know, I don't know if you are aware that this strike was precisely started on the 1st of April, and we suspended it 10 days after because of a meeting we had with federal government where a memorandum of action was signed. You know, the memorandum of action, according to the minister, is a document that contains timelines within which the demands would have been met. Because of our faith and because of the concerns we have for Nigerians, we decided to suspend our strike against the wish of our people, especially those that are affected. We were called all sorts of names. However, as responsible leaders, we felt that having signed an MOU with the federal government, we should suspend that strike. Today, our members have been they've been proven right that we should not have trusted the federal government. 113 days after we suspended that strike, based on the MOA signed, we are here today with nothing. So when we were to have the recent, the just concluded National Executive Council meeting, we as leaders, we called a pre-National Executive Council meeting where we put together these demands again, and we wrote to federal government with 4 weeks ultimatum. Having shifted it from the initially when we suspended the strike, we gave 2 weeks. You know, the 2 weeks elapsed. 2 weeks was what was contained in the MOA for most of the things to have been achieved. We're following the trend. We gave 2 weeks because we don't want the strike. 2 weeks elapsed. We tactically gave another 2 weeks. It elapsed again. So finally, when we knew that this National Executive Council meeting is a statutory meeting, we cannot stop it. And we know that our members were going to come there and take drastic decision if nothing is done. We decided to meet again. We wrote to the federal government, and at this time, we gave 4 weeks that we, coincide with the time we are going to be having the meeting, hoping that they were going to be responsible enough to attend to those issues. Issues as basic as payment of salaries, issues as basic as rectifying the platform for which you paid salaries so that there will not be irregularities and there will not be accumulation of unpaid salaries. These issues as basic as that are not be done. Issues as basic as, I must tell you that, when we started this year, January, there is this document that came out that our junior doctors, the house officers, we need to be placed, there should be a central placement so that they will not be roaming about the street. This policy we supported. And the MDCN, who is in charge, started, in a very abysmal way. We gave all the support because our members didn't want them to start because they foresaw some of these challenges. But we said that we should be partner in progress. Let us support this policy because it has good intention. We support it. Since January till now, this policy, the way they implemented it was abysmal, faced with a lot of irregularities. Most of those young doctors, I believe that most homes have doctors today. Doctors that just finished from the university, the challenges they face. These doctors were left without salary for almost 7 months before that, for almost 4 months before the initial strike started. So we suspended the strike and constituted a committee with us, inclusive, so that we can together solve the problems. Today, as we speak, despite several meetings, despite our involvement and spending a lot of money to do that, there are still some of those people not yet paid. As if that was not enough, today we have a circular coming from the head of service, removing this same group of doctors from the scheme of service. I think this is obnoxious. It is very, very, I think the government, the players in the health sector, they are instigating us so that there will not be peace in the health sector. Especially now that we are still in the COVID, the third wave of COVID that just come around. There should not be strike. But so we want journalists to help us. Ask these people in the Ministry of Health, why are they allowing doctors to go on strike? Because this strike is preventable. Agree with me that if you govern over people that are not paid salary, you cannot be allowed peace. You will be seen as if you are not, concerned about their welfare. And this we believe it is germane. Their complaints are germane. So we need to call on federal government. They should do the needful so that Nigerians will not suffer. That is why we are on strike. Because if we continue to keep quiet, people go into depression. In fact, it becomes worse because if you come to the hospital and a hungry doctor is attending to you, you cannot be satisfied. A hungry person cannot treat you well. So everybody should team up together with us so that we can put this right. We should be striking for better infrastructure, not striking for salary. We should be striking for the development of the health sector in Nigeria. I heard somebody talking in the studio just now that if not for COVID, most of the elites in this country, most of the politicians, they travel abroad for treatment. Why? Because they have better infrastructure there, they have better equipment and everything for them to be treated. This is what we should be struggling for in this country because me and you don't have that enablement. We don't have enough money to be traveling abroad for treatment. We cannot fly our parents abroad for treatment. So we that are staying here, we should make the health sector better. And so those that cannot do what they should do that are managing the health sector of Nigeria, it is high time all of us come together and ask that they should step aside.
Dr. Jerry, without prejudice to your demands or requests, now the cause of this matter, as you just said, is that Nigerians will not suffer. I think that should be the point of interest. So how far can you go?
Before you say it, I am telling you that we don't want Nigerians to suffer. So before you ask me, I already told you. So we should all face the people that allow this strike to hold. We should call them to order. I think that is one of your jobs. Call them, ask them, are these people mad? Are they just on the street because they want to go on the street? Ask them questions. Somebody that you are owing 6-7 months salary to continue to work. As we speak, in some of the states in this country, some doctors are being owed 19 months salaries, 10 months salaries, 6 months salaries, 4 months salaries, respectively. Abia State, Imo State, Ondo State, and Ekiti State. Are these people living in this country? They go to the same market, they have children in the same school that you have. As you are there in the studio, will you continue to work if you are not paid 2-3 months salaries? I think talk is cheap. We should not face the people that cause this strike. We know the truth. Let us ask them questions. As you say for me to be on this studio, call the Minister of Health, Call those that are managing the sector to come and explain why the doctors are on strike.
All right, Dr. Jerry, finally, has the government approached you once again for a roundtable talk about this ongoing industrial action?
I think we have not heard from them. We are still waiting to hear from them.
For the past 3 days?
Yes.
That's serious. All right, Dr. Jerry Igosu is the Secretary General of the National Association of Resident Doctors of Nigeria. We need to allow you to go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Jide, you can hear from the horse's mouth. It shows a lot. Is it not a failure on the part of Nigerians who don't interrogate these politicians?
This is not even horse's mouth. This is the mouth of the man, the main man involved. You know, Nigerians are watching, they are listening. You see, when some of us, when we criticize the government, it seems like maybe we are paid agent provocateur, and we are doing an hatchet job. I don't know why a government will go into a memorandum of action and 9 months, 113 days after, you will not deem it fit to honor those. So even in the issue of handling issue of COVID-19, I watched analysis yesterday where one of the analysts was saying Nigeria should ask even the so-called money and donations that the federal government of Nigeria received from public-spirited individuals, international donors. How did they spend it? The current Moderna vaccine that we have received was donated to us by US. The previous one was by COVAX, that was also a donation by, I think, European Union or something. So if we had all of this, and we have huge budgetary allocation, including the current supplementary budget that was signed to the president a couple of weeks ago, can't we solve this problem? Why will a medical doctor work for 9 months, 16 months, 19 months without getting paid? And now the man, Dr. Isogo, was talking about how will a doctor that is hungry treat a patient well? And that's why you see them cutting corners. Some of them are working in more than 2-3 places. They are in government hospital in the day. At night, they are in private hospitals to earn a living. So somebody who has not have sufficient rest, how will he hear you out to even know the kind of diagnosis to make of your ailment? Because they are, and we see the way these people are treated abroad. You know the number. You know that somebody gave me a statistic about 10 years ago that number of doctors in US alone is over 20,000. Nigerian doctors working in US, practicing in US. Not even those who go to US to take on other many jobs. You know, there are also people like that who just migrated and said, "Look, I don't want to do any other qualifying exam. I will just find something else to do." But those who are practicing, there are over 20,000 Nigerians working. Look at that. The guy, one of the Ogbuagu, who was a part of the Pfizer biotech team that discovered vaccine for COVID-19, is a Nigerian. He was a son of a professor in Nigeria. He was trained in, I think, either UNN or maybe Calabar. So, but instead of us to even be able to produce vaccine that other African countries will come and buy, we are at the mercy of this. Now we are in the third wave. We allow the doctors to go on strike. You heard when the man said that government has not even called them for discussion. That means they can as well go. That means they are calling their bluff. They gave 4 months. 4 weeks of notice that they are going to go on strike. The government did not deem it fit. We have 2 ministers in that health ministry, Senator Mamora and Chris Igige. Both of them senators, both of them former government. No, one is a former governor. So why are they treating Nigerians like this? Is it until people go on the streets and protest and there is a lot of shooting that we know that we are in a case, in a serious problem in Nigeria? This resident doctor strike is a no-no for me. It's a thumbs down for this administration. No matter
I think
what
it's also important that Dr. Jerry Isogo call on Nigerians to call out the people who are responsible for this. Yes, we should call them out. It's left for us.
It's very unfortunate.
On that note, we come to the end of this edition of Inside Nigeria for today. Keep it there with us tomorrow for another interesting edition. Thank you, Jide. for being with us.
Always a pleasure.
Jide Ojo is an Abuja-based public affairs analyst and a columnist. My name remains Bode Gbadebo. Bye-bye for now.